Hello, welcome to the CIMA operational case study. My name is Steve. Now, in this course, I'll be taking you through of how to pass the OCS in very effective manner. I've been teaching the OCS since 2016, up until now, 8 years already. I've been teaching the OCS with extensive experience and helping students becoming the first prize winner, particularly in China. I would like to share my experience and my thought regarding how to pass this paper. This paper is all about case study, but it's not about case study at all. Unlike what we will be seeing later on in the management case and the strategic case study exams, that the operational case study exam, you need to learn the technical knowledge so you can apply in the workplace. Very likely that you will be a finance junior in an organization. For example, do you need lots of practical industry experience before you work in that role in, for example, management accounting role? Or perhaps the tax accountant? But the answer for that is absolutely no. So therefore, our approach proves to be quite effective over the years. We are not emphasizing the importance of the pre-sim material, but we will be going through the pre-sim material in depth. But more importantly, I've created lots of pre-learned paragraphs so you can directly copy and paste in your actual exam for each of the topic in turn. According to the CIMA's guidance, that you need to focus on these core activity from A up to F, covering from costing, budgeting, performance analysis, IFRS tax, short-term decision making, for example, relevant cost analysis, and even the working capital management. And in each of the core activity in turn, I will be going through lots of pre-learned paragraphs. So for example, I'd like to take you through to the topic 1, absorption costing and marginal costing. Now, if you see these topics coming up in the exam, make sure that it's very likely that the examining team asks you to explain the differences between absorption and marginal costing. You need to learn what do I mean by absorption costing, paste them into your answer. Of course, you need to learn them so you need to memorize them so you can directly write them in the actual exam. I will tell you exactly how many points they need to write in the actual exam. And of course, the marginal costing, my pre-learned paragraph in there. So making sure keeping each point absolutely short and straightforward. And of course, in relation to the IFRS, unlike what I've been teaching the OCS since the first sitting in 2016, that the OCS exam at that particular moment in time was so tough because at that time that the examining team would test you lots of IFRS related knowledge. However, in the current exam, of course, there will be not lots of IFRS knowledge that you need to cover, but some of the key accounting standards that you need to cover. For example, the IAS number 36, impairment of assets. I created the pre-learned paragraph, and then you can directly learn them and apply them in the actual exam. Now, this is our tip. I mean, when you see my debrief of the pre-sim, and even in other qualifications, and even in the CIMA qualification from management case onwards, you will see that, okay, I would like to analyze the pre-sim in depth, bringing lots of practical and industry experience in, but this will not be applied in the OCS exam because that would be a completely waste of time. Regarding the questions in the OCS exam, each and every time, that there will be 6 variants in the OCS exam, and each variant would contain 4 questions in there. And if you see the post-exam materials from your hub published by CIMA, you will find that almost all of the topics, or the majority of the topics in my casebook came up. So I would say that the OCS exam, just to be the rote learning case study exam, don't spend too much time on the preaching, but focus on the knowledge and to practice a bit of mock exams and getting marked by our expert tutors. And of course, you will find this paper relatively straightforward for you to pass. Now, of course, in this section, firstly, I would like to introduce you to the OCS exam, including the exam itself and the exam technique. Now, firstly, this exam is 150 marks and 3 hours. You will need to achieve at least 80 out of 150 to pass this paper. 4 questions in the actual exam. So usually, I would say that, of course, there will be 45 minutes per question. And I would say that for each of the question, my suggestion is to write about 12 paragraphs per question. And each paragraph avoiding single sentence, 2 sentences mixing up, and will be 1 paragraph. So 12 paragraphs for 1 question. So sometimes the question itself, for example, the question 1 would be 2 requirements, and sometimes would be 3, split into part A, B, and C. So make sure that your 12 paragraphs, for example, if you're asked about 3 sub-requirements, so each of the sub-requirements, 4 paragraphs in there, for example. Of course, there will be 2 particular exams, cases in a year. For example, the OCS exam in February and May, using the first case, and then August and November will be to use another case. Now, it's very, very important that you need to plan your answer before you go ahead. Because I created lots of pre-learned paragraphs that you can directly learn and to apply them in the actual exam. That does not necessarily mean that you can completely ignore the requirements and to write what you want and what you know. If you do that, of course, highly likely is to fail this paper. My suggestion for you is that you will need to notice the words and, because even in a sub-requirement, in a single question, the sub-requirements may be split into 2 requirements. So making sure that, for example, if you use the 12 paragraphs principle, for example, in the question 1, there will be part A and part B. I'll allocate 6 and 6 paragraphs in there. In the part A, I've noticed the word and therefore I would like to write 3 paragraphs and 3 paragraphs respectively, so a total of 6. So make sure that you plan the answer correctly. You need to answer all of the requirements, and that will be very, very important in that. Now, I'd also like to touch on, if you are asked something that it's all about the narrative part, so why do you think about the, for example, the KPI is quite effective, for example. Now, these sort of narratives usually have no correct answers at all. So this is why, for the narrative part, I will highly recommend you, in your answer, to use the words because. Because when you're writing something that with because, it will force you to think about the issue and to demonstrate your understanding. And you will see that the CIMA will publish how the exam will be marked by the markers. And one of the very, very important principles that you always need to bear in mind is that you will need to demonstrate your understanding okay, of that question. And this is why I'm using the words because it will certainly help you a bit further. Okay? Right, so planning the deadline, you can't really go back, okay, to a previous question once you've submitted that, once time arrives. And these are just to be the basic stuff that you need to be aware of. Because I really assume that the majority of you guys that sitting the OCS exam probably will be the first case study that you're sitting. So therefore, in the next of our section onwards, I'll be covering the core activity number A. It's all about the costing information, okay, from CIMA. And I'll share my experience and to make sure that you understand the topic, because the costing information from a P1 study before and how the pre-learned paragraphs can be applied. I look forward to seeing you then. Bye-bye.
APC, accounting for your future.